Alright guys, HyDra again today. Hope you're doing well and enjoying your day so far. What a day to the first day here at Major 1 in Madrid. Drama from start to finish today. Some shocking matches, some much better matches, and a banger to close out the day. Loads of storylines, absolutely, going into the rest of the weekend as a result of this one. Very much interested in your thoughts in the comments below. Hit the like button if you enjoy. Subscribe if you're new as always. The crowd today, given the circumstances, was absolutely mega. I mean, this is the queue outside of the matches. Now let's just not forget real quick, this is a Thursday in Madrid when obviously the fans will gather more speed as the weekend goes on, but the queue here was mega, and it's not even about the number of people that were there because it's a massive venue. It's a venue too big to, you know, fit the amount of fans we can probably accommodate right now in European Call of Duty, but you get stuff like this. This is why Gentlemates and Gataga is such a massive add to the Call of Duty scene, and we will see more of this as time goes on. I think there's a lot of optimism that with any luck we might get a Paris event in the near future or some sort of event in France. It would be sensational to see if it happens because we've basically got football ultras here. Like, we had the flags, we had the chants, it was unreal content. And let's not forget, by the way, they don't even play today. Like, they play tomorrow is their first game, Gentlemate, and we'll discuss who they play really in more detail tomorrow morning. But yeah, this was their section of the stands. It's kind of remarkable how there was kind of like the French contingent right about here, then there was the Spanish contingent pretty much on the other side, and then in the middle was mostly like UK and like French and, you know, Irish guys. Met loads of guys today, which was brilliant if I did, and yeah, I'll be around for the rest of the weekend as well. So just a great day one, really, in many regards. Of course, we had the watch party as well. This was at the start of the day before things even got underway. And Ben was giving his thoughts on something rather interesting, which is the Falcons. They are not very good right now, and everyone knows it. The problem is that a lot of the pro teams don't even want to scrim them. There's been a couple of rumours going around about this, and understandably, really. They're making loads of roster changes. They're not looking so good. Teams don't feel like they improve when they practice against them. So lots of teams have just decided they're just not going to bother. So what do you do about that if you're Falcons? Get better, I guess, and so they want to scrim you. But how do you get better if you can't scrim the pro teams? So this is probably a conversation topic we'll have as the days go on, really. Not sure what the next steps are here. Ben feels like there's a possibility that the CDL might have to step in at some point and say, look guys, can we find a way to resolve this? The CDL aren't going to care unless the Falcons ownership, having got complaints from the players in the situation, goes to the league. Obviously, Trey's perspective was, from a player side, why am I going to go out of my way to play a team that sucks? Why would I do that? Which is fair, and I totally get that. But I also understand why Falcons are left behind, right? Because they're not good, but they can't improve because no one wants to scrim them. So they're just jogged, which is not really good for anyone involved. So that I thought was interesting. We'll discuss more of that in a second. One of the funniest things of today, a couple of funny things with our like stage host of the day, right? It makes sense for these type of events, have a stage host, of course, that can speak a couple of languages, speak a bit of English, speak a bit of French. There were some unreal moments with this fella today. I thought it was brilliant, especially when he asked Cellium who he wants to play in the next rounds. And one of the teams that he could play was Atlanta. And Cellium was like, oh my god, I've got to play FaZe in the next round. That's a really scary proposition. So this is brilliant. I mean, look, there were a couple of production hiccups today. There was one like little technical thing. Generally, it went okay. Better than I thought. And ended in time, just about, although it should have ended earlier, arguably, based on some of the series that we had. Even Blaze was commenting and saying, keep it simple. Seemed to be a bit of an implication towards what you know, we saw with the stage hosting today, saying, look, maybe it's just time to you know, tone it down a little bit with the tapas questions is all I'd say on that one. So let's talk about some of the matches here. There were some interesting comments from Beans, especially saying how they're the best team. There have been some rumours, I mentioned it on the watch party today, that Toronto in scrims have been very, very solid. Whether they can translate that to LAN is always a bit of a question mark. We know that FaZe were playing Boston first round. Boston were looking forward to playing them. They thought they might be able to get revenge from the other day. The problem is this series, they just got skill diffed pretty hard. Snoopy was still very good, and Awakening had a decent search and destroy, but everyone else kind of got farmed. And this is maybe the problem a bit with like the whole Purge Snoopy thing. I do rate Snoopy actually really highly. I think he's excellent as of this year. Purge has had some good moments and some good series, but still, we know that Purge had a rough time, certainly against some of the better teams over the course of last season. So, you know, a series like this comes along. I honestly don't think Boston played that bad. I just think FaZe were really good, and I think that's kind of scary for the opposition as it stands, because Simp was taken over. In the listening, he said, welcome to LAN, fellas, which was quite the statement, to be honest. And Cellium aBeZy took over the protocol control as well. Game 2 was winnable. That was the chance of Boston to get back into the series. There was a couple of rounds in there they could have won. They lost it 6-4. The protocol control that they played again wasn't even close. And FaZe advanced to a pretty much indomitable round 1 record in the history of their team, as Simp is now 32-5. So this wasn't particularly pretty. As I say, Snoopy was their best performer, but Awakening at a 0.8. And if Awakening at a 0.8, I'd be like, well, maybe they could win in a hypothetical world where everyone else is going off. The issue is everyone else is worse. Purge at a 0.6, Cammy at a 0.7, and Cellium didn't have a 1.4 despite a fantastic protocol control, but he had a 1.3, so not a bad start there. Toronto versus Surge, though, was equally emphatic in many respects, and I thought this was particularly impressive. Skyline is a map that should suit Toronto very well. It does. They dominated on it, really, and there wasn't that much else to say on the series. I mean, the Hacienda was competitive. To be honest, I don't know how Toronto won this map, too. There was two offenses in a row. Toronto just let themselves die planting the bomb from top window on Hacienda, where I guess they still thought they were playing the BO4 version of the map rather than this game. So they died a couple of rounds in a row. They still found a way to win the round 11. That was a choke from Surge, to be honest. And then the other maps just weren't especially close. The numbers imply this as well. CleanX and JoeDeceives were frying. And I think the problem for Surge is, online, they actually weren't that bad, but they were 4-3. But on LAN, they expected, and I think we expected them to maybe look better, right? They're playing out of Vancouver. It's so bad from an internet perspective. I know that there was optimism they'd be able to do that, but this series, Toronto just kind of destroyed them, really, and in the respawns. And that's the thing, if the rumours are true that Toronto are looking good in the respawn modes, we know their search and destroy is very solid, so they could be a contender. Look, I'm not saying Toronto are going to win, or that they're necessarily going to beat FaZe, but they are going to be a force, I think, for FaZe to be reckoned with. It's not going to be plain sailing, I don't think, for FaZe to get past Toronto the way that they're currently playing, but intrigue your thoughts on that in the comment section below. This series, though, man, we got to talk about this. Los Angeles Thieves played the Ravens, and I'm not going to lie, from the very first moments that the Ravens boys walked out on stage, like me and Ronnie sitting on the couch, we knew this was over. Like, I don't know what Ravens, it just felt like their vibes were chalked. Their warm-up scrims kind of gone well. I don't know what happened. But just watching them walk out to the stage compared to the Thieves' energy, and also, unfortunately for Vivid, can quite clearly see that he's like massively swollen above his right eye here. And it was a bit confusing what it was. I think actually Brian Saint after the series confirms that they thought it was a sty. It actually might be something like a staph infection. So I think they're taking him to get checked out right about now, because it's obviously was affecting his play. He still did pretty well in the search and destroy, but it was obviously affecting his gameplay, and I imagine that might have been the same case for the rest of the team as well. But man, this was a brutal map, to say the very least. This was, of course, the Hacienda Game 1, and we've not really seen a hardpoint dominated like this. Thieves looked very impressive, but I think this has got to be a mix of both. I mean, we know that Ravens have been bad in hardpoint and scrims basically from day one. They got better for a time at the start of the game, and they would often win Game 5 search and destroys. But right now, these guys can't win a hardpoint to save their life, and it must be so demoralizing. Like, it's confusing because on paper, Ravens should not be, you know, onliners, right? They should be better on LAN, you would think. But yeah, not what we are seeing. Of course, people were joking around about this is what Vivid saw in his screen, which I thought felt kind of bad for. But look, at the end of the day, it wasn't just Vivid underperforming. And Scrappy, to be fair to him, after having a horrific Hacienda hardpoint a couple of times in a row, he turned up and, you know, made some serious impact. He went from having 6 kills to basically 6 deaths as that went on. But it wasn't just the map 1, it was the map 4 as well. And honestly, Ravens this series nearly got 100 point clubbed over 2 hardpoint maps. Like, they nearly, I think they had 113 points maybe over 2 maps. Outrageous stuff. And there was another sensational video or interview as well to close out the series. Maybe I'll put that for you guys at the end. Okay, Ravens won the search. Congratulations, we're used to that. And Thieves, it was close in the control, although they always kind of felt in charge. But the hard points, I mean, what are we talking about here? Like, they got absolutely annihilated. Scrap at a 1.5. HyDra actually went dead even, but Envoy and Ghosty both had a 1.3 pretty much. And everyone on the other side was getting tucked into bed. I mean, Gwinn, Slasher, they tried. Vivid and TJ tried. But what do you say? Like, when a Ravens team is this bad in hardpoint, like, there's just no way anything can happen. I feel bad for Vivid, obviously, because he would be the odd man out theoretically if they were going to make a change. And if they bow out of the tournament in a similar fashion tomorrow, kind of tough to see any other outcome happening than that. Let's talk the OpTic versus Heretics. Because apart from putting Pred on this graphic instead of Huke coming out into the team, this was a series we expected OpTic to win. They're the #1 seed, Miami 2-5, #8 seed. Miami, you know, I don't know what it is. There's always an upset potential in there. I always talk about this, that they have the potential to flip the switch and in respawns to make it work. And of course, this is a home crowd for them in many respects, right? They're not hosting the event, but there was a heavy contingent of Spanish fans in the venue. I know that Real's whole family was there. I'm sure there were loads of family and friends of the players. Should that make a difference in a series where they should be getting skill diffed? Not really, but I don't know what it is when OpTic spawn in against the, you know, the teal and orange or whatever it is of the Miami guys. They just, some reason, it just doesn't work. And last year, they lost to Heretics online and then 3-0 smoked them first round of the LAN. This year, it was just a different story. And yeah, Heretics, we've not seen OpTic lose a Vault hardpoint really at all. I mean, this whole entire season, Heretics played them on it. They beat them on it game 1. And, you know, uncharacteristically poor performances. It's just what I will say about this series. When you see FaZe play Boston, they 3-0'd them online the other week. But yet, FaZe in that series, you could tell from their listening to their demeanour, they were absolutely 100% locked in. They were going to give absolutely no room for error at all to the opposition, and that's exactly what they did. With OpTic, I'm sure they're very confident in winning the series, and as soon as you get punched in the mouth game 1, all of a sudden it becomes a bit of a different challenge. But to be fair, sure, Real had a masterclass game 1, it happens, right? You lose the Vault, it is what it is. And OpTic bounced back, they did well. They won the game 2 search and destroy, they dominated the red card search. Shotzzy had a great map here, and of course Shotzzy's been talking loads of trash on various teams over the last few weeks. So in many respects, his team needs to make this #1 seed count. And then the control, Huke and Dashy had, again, phenomenal map. They win the Hassie and the control against Heretics. This one was not even close, and it felt like, okay, OpTic have warmed up now. They're going to have no issues closing out the series. That was not how it turned out to be. And this game 4 was particularly telling, potentially for the future of OpTic's season. It's tough to say. OpTic were down big during this map. They were down like 248 to 200 or so. But they got the rotation here. They got the kills they needed. And it looked like they were going to bring the comeback here, right? They had the setup OpTic. It's a difficult hill to hold this one, but OpTic did it. Dashy gets 1 kill here. He then gets traded, but who can that make it work? Shotzzy gets a big ult. Shotzzy was making, like, you know, to be fair to him, he was trying his best to get them over the line here. Shotzzy went huge. And at this moment, you genuinely think it's GG. Because OpTic have 7 seconds to go. It doesn't even really look like they're going to be able to contest in time. But it's number 6. Kenny, you know, has to be blamed for this. I know that he'll be looking back at the VOD and Kenny will be kicking himself. Because there's just no way. 6 is the only player who can do any damage here to OpTic setup. And somehow Kenny, while holding this angle, you know, why wise? I mean, you can see it's the classic Kenny. You know, we talked about this. Kenny on LAN will be fine. You know, he's not like he was terrible, but it's not about the numbers, really, at the end of the day. It's about specific moments. It's 247, 248, and all you've got to do is kill Rencor here and you win the game. He YYs, he loses the gunfight, Rencor breaks in, gets the couple of seconds, and that's 250. So, you know, to be fair, Lucky got the kill as well, but it was Rencor who was in the time just long enough. I know that it's kind of glitched here when they got to 250 and then it shows as contested, but it did get to 250 just before the game was over. And that's just one of those gunfights that could potentially, I wouldn't say season defining, but if he wins that fight, OpTic win the map, and I mean, assuming they kill Real, which they probably do, I mean, it's over, right? But losing that fight lost them the game. These were the Heretics boys as well behind the scenes. So much passion here. And all of a sudden, OpTic are reeling. They're going to a game 5 on a Hacienda. And apart from, you know, Dashy making some plays, this was pretty dominant, really, for Heretics. They closed out in a 6-2 fashion. So, rough series for OpTic. I don't know what it is about this map set. I don't know what it is about this matchup, is what I was trying to say. OpTic versus Heretics, or OpTic versus that organization from Florida. It just always seems to have a surprise in store, but I think for OpTic, they won map 2, map 3. As far as they're concerned, there will be no excuses not to win this series. And yeah, it's a pretty gut-wrenching defeat. They drop down to losers, and they, I believe, will play Gorillas. So I think that's true anyway. Actually, I do have the bracket right about here. So yes, it is OpTic LAG. We'll look at the bracket in more detail tomorrow, but it's the French and the French fans in attendance versus OpTic Texas. That is quite the winners round or losers round 1 series, sorry for you guys. And that's where we're going to close that for the day. Lots to discuss, I'm sure, tomorrow morning. Very much interested in your thoughts in the comments. Hit the like button if you enjoyed. Subscribe if you're new. Take care. And I'll see you next time.
These people is amazing. They're cheating for you every single time. But first of all, welcome to Madrid after dominating this last map. Are you willing to taste any Spanish tapas? Wait, what? Are you willing to taste any Spanish tapas? Because after this map, you must be hungry.
The Spanish?